This video is about the self-concept, which is essentially all the ideas that you have about yourself and who you are. That's basically it. What makes it interesting is that all the ideas you have about who you are might not actually be in line with the full complexity of who you are. If you could just trust every single feeling you have in the moment as it arises, then you're not going to really need that much of a fixed self-concept because you're just in the present moment, feeling things, doing things, processing emotions and going about your day. If you've been told that some feelings are bad though, and that's resulted in you cutting those feelings out of your awareness, you can no longer afford to live in the present moment, always in contact with whatever's going on in your organism, because that'll pose a risk to your receiving of love and your chances of surviving. And so we develop like a fixed self-concept to give us a consistent image of ourselves in light of conditions of worth and in light of cutting certain feelings out of our awareness. I think everyone develops a self-concept. Everyone has ideas about who they are. The question though is how in line your self-concept is with the ongoing ever-changing complexity of your feelings and how much it enables you to feel the full range of what's going on inside. Self-concept is kind of like a roadmap. I've used this analogy before. The roadmap can be really helpful to the extent that it's accurate and it actually gives you a good impression of the terrain itself. The ideas you have about yourself are the roadmap and the feelings inside is the actual terrain. If your roadmap then, or your self-concept, is really similar to the terrain, your actual feelings, then generally speaking, you're probably going to be doing okay. There might be some times when you're really a bit confused about how you feel and it can be a bit difficult to acknowledge that you feel a certain way, but generally speaking, you're doing okay. If, however, your self-concept, the ideas you have about yourself is completely at odds with what's really going on underneath the surface, you're having to keep down a lot of feelings out of your awareness. And that's when difficulties can happen. You're out of touch with your organism, you've got all these ideas that you've internalized from elsewhere, you've got no compass. You can't read the stars, you've got no compass, you don't know which way is north. Whereas, if you've got a compass, if you've got a map, if you've got sat-nav, it's going to be easy to find your way around. If your map's generally pretty accurate, that's going to be quite easy to cope with, and it's going to be quite easy to check the map against the terrain. It's not going to cause as much anxiety because there's less of a discrepancy between the two. If your map is really wildly different to the terrain though, it can be difficult to begin to look at the terrain in the first place. It can be a really scary thing because it feels really unknown. This map you've got is completely different to what's out there, and so the terrain's really scary because it's a complete mystery to you. So you can imagine if people have been given loads of conditions of worth, their map, their self-concept is really at odds with what's really going on under the surface and what their organism is feeling at any given moment. It can be really quite a terrifying thing to start listening to it. It can be quite a painful process of beginning to do that. People cut certain parts of themselves out of awareness in order to survive. So to begin to dimly be aware of these parts of themselves that they've cut out of awareness, that is a scary thing to do. Person-centered therapy then is about offering a space for a person to start noticing these feelings that might be at the edge of their awareness, that they're a little bit uncomfortable about. If you can offer a space where people can lean out of their comfort zone and begin to maybe acknowledge these parts of themselves that they've never really been made aware of before, that they were never really able to acknowledge. If you can offer a space that's safe enough for a person to do that, then they may well use it in a way that enables them to get their self-concept, their map, more in line with what the map represents, their actual feelings and their organism. Rogers at one point is quite famous for saying, who you are is enough if only you can be it openly. And what he means by that is, if only people can get in touch with their feelings and get away from value judgments about their feelings or thoughts on how they should feel, then they're going to be okay. If they can get in touch with their organism and what's going on, they're going to be able to steer themselves in whatever direction they find meaningful. That's the idea. Feelings themselves aren't the problem. Value judgments about feelings are the problem. opinions that certain feelings are wrong and I shouldn't feel those things. That's the problem. Because what happens then is that certain feelings are kept out of awareness, are kept under the surface, and maybe only come into your awareness when they get to a certain intensity, at which point, yeah, they may well be unhelpful. But if they're spotted early, when they are just a feeling inside of yourself that you can contain, it can be a good feedback system in telling you what your needs are. And that's why training to be a therapist involves so much self-reflection, because if the therapist has all kinds of feelings that they're keeping under the surface, then it's going to be difficult for them to manage a space for someone else to be able to express whatever feelings they have regardless of what they are, which is kind of what therapy is all about. So self-reflection activities are a really vital part of training to be a therapist, so that you can get as in touch with yourself as you possibly can be, and you can be as prepared as possible for holding a space for clients to talk about anything they want to without your stuff getting in the way of the therapeutic process. The more you're aware of your stuff, the better you're able to keep it to one side and not let it get in the way of how you work with a client. That's why self-awareness activities are so important, and that's why it's also important to keep doing things that get you in touch with yourself and cause you to reflect, because this is an ongoing process. We're always learning, and I don't think we'll ever approach a point where we have complete self-awareness, and I'd be skeptical towards anybody who claims that they have reached that point.